We got married when I was 25 and Diana was 23. So because of my advanced age of 25, we decided very quickly to try and start a family. And that's only a natural thing for a young couple to want to do, is you desire to have a family, you desire to have children, because one of the magical things about children is to see both of us expressed in a child. And we went through a lot of avenues to try to correct our infertility problems, and through several surgeries that Diana had and a lot of different alternatives and many trips to Omaha, we discovered that we were never going to have a family. And at that point we decided, and we talked about the possibility of adoption. Talked about it, prayed about it, and looked at all our alternatives.
We had met a lot of people through our battle for infertility. We met other women, other couples who were experiencing difficulty having a baby and getting pregnant, and there became a common bond between us and other people who were experiencing the same problem. And we met some people who had decided to adopt because they weren't able to have their own children. And when we met those couples, we started to talk about that between the two of us. And I still can remember the day that we were in the basement, actually, and we lived in the home where Dale grew up, and we farm, and we were in the basement at the farmhouse. And one day we just both came to the decision about the same time, and we recall being downstairs in the basement, and for some reason all of a sudden we started just to discuss the fact that we would be willing to look at adoption. We knew that we would be willing to bring a baby into our home. We would be willing to take and accept that baby and build a bond with that baby, just the same as if we'd given birth to that child ourselves.
So we started asking a lot of questions, a lot of phone calls, and we discovered very quickly that the avenues for adoption, the traditional ways through an agency, were at that point in time very discouraging. This was back in the early 80s, and the waiting period through an agency was very long. The paperwork and the procedure you had to endure was long, and it was grueling. So we pretty much gave up on that option very quickly. And we started out by putting ads in the papers, and most people have seen these ads in the papers. They're still there. People still do the same things. But we put ads in the papers just to see what would happen. And that was one avenue we did. And what was interesting from those ads was we never did get a good lead from an ad. Usually we got a young mom looking for money, and I don't remember a single one that seemed legitimate. Most of them wanted money and basically just wanted to scam us. I'll never forget it. We were actually away from home, and we were down in Ames, Iowa, which is about 2 hours away from home. And that summer, the Evangelical Free Church was having their national convention in Ames. And the featured speaker one night was Charles Swindoll. So we wanted to go see Charles Swindoll because we'd listened to him on the radio for a long time. And so we went down there and we ran into several other people from church. And one couple we ran into, they came right up to us and said, you need to call home. And it's about a baby, because we had been away from home for a day or two, as I remember it, and we had just stopped in Ames on our way home to see Charles Swindoll. So they said, it's about a baby. So, and this was in the days before cell phones, so I can remember running through the outside of Hilton Coliseum looking for a payphone where you actually put coins in to call home to this person that we were supposed to talk to about a baby. And we had no idea what the circumstances were, what the details were. We just knew it was about a baby. And here's what happened. It was literally a friend of ours from home. Her sister-in-law, who lives in Minnesota, had a friend in Seattle, Washington, who had a daughter that had a baby that they were looking for a family to adopt. And they wanted to know if we would be interested.
And finally then on the following weekend, on a Saturday night, the phone call came, and it was about 9 o'clock at night. And it was our friend who was the lawyer, and he just said 3 words. He said, "They chose you."
We started making plans to fly to Seattle, and we were going to take our attorney with us. And we made plans to go. So when the 3 days came and went, we got on an airplane, met our attorney in Omaha, and we flew to Seattle.
When we went into the room and we met Carl's birth mom, Becky, she was in the hospital bed, and she'd had a cesarean birth, so she was there in the bed in the room, and her parents were there. And as we were introduced to everybody, I remember going over and talking to the birth mom, Becky, but yet part of me, I remember it and yet I don't remember it. It's really hard to describe, but the only thing I can say is that I wanted to express to her what I was feeling, and the way that I was so aware of and so thankful for what she was giving to me. But it was so intense for me that I knew that I just could not completely have eye contact with her and make that connection, because I was afraid that that would be so hard for me to go home with that and think about this young woman who had given up her baby in order for me to take home a baby. Part of that process was dressing him in the clothes that we brought with us and taking him home and on the airplane, and having people ask us on the airplane, "Oh, you know, how old is your baby?" And we would say 3 days old. And you know, Dale and I looked at each other and we smiled, and we were becoming parents for the first time. And it was an experience that was powerful because it carried such emotion, and that was extremely powerful. How God brought us together, and the bond that's there, and knowing that we have shared in this experience together, and we have shared together as being Carl's parents.